Stephanie, how are you doing today?
Hi, Meg. How are you doing today?
You didn't answer how you were.
Oh, I'm good.
Well,
I'm
good.
fantastic.
I am glad to hear it. I am fabulous as always. So today we are going to talk about self-criticism, but namely imposter syndrome. So what is
Yes.
imposter syndrome, Stephanie?
So, uh, imposter syndrome is also I'm gonna just read it first, and then we could talk about it because
Yeah. No, you're good.
it's
You're good.
easier that way. So, imposter syndrome is also known as imposter phenomenon. Phenomena. You know what
Phenomena,
I mean?
phenomena. Yes.
Or
Tourism.
impostorism.
I've never heard of that one. So that
Me
was fun to
either.
learn.
It's a psychological occurrence in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud.
Whew.
So,
I am in this picture.
yep. I think we all pretty much are at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
um, were you gonna say something?
Oh, I was just gonna keep reading unless you had more things.
Oh, you should keep reading.
Okay. The term imposter phenomenon was introduced in an article published in 1978. So, relatively recent. I mean, let's be honest, that's still like 45 years ago, not to make anyone freak out. Anyways, this paper was titled The Imposter Phenomenon in High
In
Achieving.
I just want to say
Yes.
with my brain and my time blindness, 1978 was 22 years ago because
Oh.
my life is forever forever of me in 2000. I don't know why,
Well,
but
and that's why I was like, I hate to burst anyone's bubble, but yeah, that's 45 years ago.
it's a long time ago,
Um,
man.
but now I'm like, okay, actually, let me make sure I'm doing my math right. But yes, I am right. Okay. Anyway, so this paper, The Imposter Phenomenon in High Achieving Women, Dynamics and Therapeutic Intervention. So, what the scientists did, or the researchers, they defined the imposter phenomenon as an internal experience of intellectual phoniness. I love that. No one says phony anymore. I really like it. They
Me
initially
too.
focused their research on women in higher education and professional industries. So that would be every woman listening to this because you're either a groomer or you work in another professional industry. Despite the consistent external validation these women received, they lacked internal acknowledgement of their accomplishments. Um, which I can relate sometimes to that because sometimes all I need is like the external validation, but then sometimes like I'm good for a minute with it, but then I'm like, are they just saying that to be nice to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like, I've definitely noticed your anxiety kind of takes it, like, one step further of, like,
Oh,
you're like, "Oh, thank you, but you're probably just being nice," and I'm like, "No."
yeah, I get that. And like, unfortunately, like I have these thoughts even with really close friends, even though like it's
Uh-huh.
like obviously we are friends and you're not just doing it to be nice, like, but
Yeah. Well, and, like, especially me, like, you can expect me to be very honest with you.
true. That's
So,
true.
like
I'm getting better, I
but,
think.
I mean, I also, like, I get it, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I we were kinda talking about, like, the other day of, um I was talking about how there was the person from high school
Mm,
that I wanted
yes.
to reconnect with to
Yes. Yes.
'cause, like, they were nice to me in high school, and we have very similar interests even now, where we've been friends on Facebook for a while, but I wanted to talk more. And anyways, like, I was kinda talking about how it's kind of pushing through a fear
Yeah.
because this
Yeah.
person, though was never mean to me,
Right.
did associate with the popular kids.
Yeah, the cool clique, the cool crowd. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and when they weren't hanging out with this person, they were, uh, taking advantage of me being very nice and very gullible, and they would,
Right.
like, pretend like we were friends and then,
Right.
like, turn it around on me and trick me.
Right.
Um,
And
and
even
it
though
happened.
he wasn't the one doing that, just by association.
Yeah. And just, like, that I like, it was, like, the start of my imposter syndrome was because of that, because 'cause I'm like, now I don't believe that I belong where I am. I'm like, "Nobody
Aw.
around me likes me," you know?
Yeah.
And I fight that a lot, but and, like, 'cause I know better, um,
Right. Right.
rationally, but I do always have that, like, under that back that, like, thing in the back of my head that is telling me, like, "Oh, no, this is all pretend. You're barely hanging on." You
Can
know?
I give you, like, a little nugget? If it did not go get so ungodly cold and snowy there, and I didn't love Washington so much, I would move there so we'd be closer and could hang out more.
Aw,
But the
I would
weather,
totally move to
I can't.
Washington.
What'd you say? You just gotta move
Yeah,
to Washington.
I would move to Washington, but,
But now you're
I'm
establishing a business and all that, so
yeah, I can't really move it at this point, and I kinda like being a Wisconsinite again, so
Wisconsinite, I love it.
I'm a Scotty. Um,
And hey, maybe you'll end up having a what would they call that? A branch out here.
yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
so
But also by that point, I will be very mobile.
yeah,
So we'll be hanging out more
and
anyways.
yeah, you're gonna be a traveling instructor for the Meditative Groomer Academy's
Whoop,
hybrid
whoop,
program that I came up with randomly off the top
whoop,
of my
whoop.
head.
Hey, no, I mean, okay, I love how that was, like, all in one breath. Um, but I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Um,
And this is another thing with imposter syndrome is, like, I have always been very good at thinking on my feet and, like, changing things as we go. Wow, I
right,
just
right.
flipped my hair all over the place.
I flip my
Um,
hair back and forth.
and, like, I just come up with shit
Yeah,
out of my ass. Like, that's how I teach too. Like, I have a general idea of what I'm gonna talk about. It all comes right out of my ass.
I love
Um,
it. I love it.
and,
Get your
like,
ass words here, guys.
and actually, like, and it's like, I'm better if I don't prepare too much.
Right.
So
Where
but
on the
then
contrary, I am the
yeah,
opposite.
yeah, but then, like, then when I do well, I'm like, I don't even know how the fuck I did that.
Right, right?
Like,
You have no, like, process to follow again because there was no process.
yeah. My dad's the same way. I don't know if he has the imposter syndrome, but
Right.
my dad is the same way of he just, like, decided one day he was, doing IT stuff and found
Yeah.
out that uh, there were people who designed exhibits for the convention industry, and he was like, "I'm
Oh.
gonna learn how to do that," and he just kinda
Oh,
did it,
I
and
love
then,
it.
like, now he owns, a business where, like, he's, like, one of the top in like, exhibit designers in the
Aw.
industry, and,
Yeah.
um, he's, like, I've heard him say it so many times where he's like, "Yeah, I just figured it out, I
Yep.
guess."
Yep. I mean, I feel like that's life, basically. You just figure it out, and one day, maybe it clicks.
Yeah,
One
um,
day.
I don't think it ever clicks, but
Yeah, it just, like, maybe you just develop you realize what doesn't work, so life isn't as shitty,
yeah.
maybe. Um, anyways, so
Sorry,
no, no,
totally
no, no,
veered
no,
off
you're
track.
fine. No, I don't mind at all because it fleshes out and it makes it less of just reading off a piece of paper. Um, and
Or
we
a
bring
digital
in
file in
we
our case,
well, digital file, yes. Save the
'cause we're
trees.
fancy.
Um, also because I'm not even gonna say it because I'm gonna have a million people being like, I write on paper. Well, we don't. It's impossible. Anyways, so why do people with imposter syndrome feel like frauds even when there is abundant evidence of their success? Instead of acknowledging their capabilities as well as their efforts, they often attribute their accomplishments to external or transient causes, such as luck, good timing, or effort that they can't regularly expend. So, how many times have you done something like some task you have never done before and you did well at it and you're like, well, that must have been a fluke. There's no way I can do that again.
Yep. Every
Yep.
single time. I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but not going to happen again.
Right. Right.
It's actually kind of funny. It's become kind of a joke with me and my husband, in like a fun way where,
Aw.
so I don't like cooking from a recipe, but I
Okay.
don't actually know how to cook. So,
Oh.
so when
Oh.
I get the basis of what needs to be done,
Right.
and so then but then instead of like measuring things, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw that in there.
Right.
And sometimes it works out awesome. Like, there's been a couple times where John is like, "Seriously, how did you make it taste that good?"
And you're
And
like,
I'm
I have
like,
no
"I
idea
have
what I
no
put in
idea.
it.
I have no idea."
I could not replicate
Um,
this.
yeah, one time I I still haven't quite figured out exactly what I did, but I was making stroganoff and I
Ooh.
used cream cheese instead of uh heavy whipping cream.
Okay.
I don't know how I did it, and I didn't realize that I did it until way afterwards.
Oh no.
And I was like, I just made it and just doing it, and I guess I read cream or cheese and I was just, I don't
And
know,
just went
something
with
happened.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it tasted so good the way I
Oh.
did it. It was so good, and he talked about it for literal weeks afterwards,
Oh
where
my
he was like,
god.
"I don't know what you did with that one, but it was
Oh my
so good."
god. Like, no
And he kept
pressure.
mentioning it to me, and I kept, like, trying to think about, like, "What did I do different? What did I do?" And finally, I realized, I'm like, "I think I used cream cheese." Well, then we tried it with the cream cheese, and I
Yeah,
haven't it's definitely what was missing, like, what I
but just
did.
not, like, the right amount.
We just haven't found the right amount.
I gotta say, like, that winging it will work with, like, cooking, but baking, do like, don't bake then, because if you if
Oh,
the
I wing
quantities
it
are
with my
off in
baking as
baking,
well.
oh god. That's like a scientific process to do baking. But that's why, like, I don't measure when I'm cooking unless, like, it specifically asks for, like, liquid, but if it's, like, oil, garlic, onion, like, any of the, like, powdery spices, I don't care what it says, I'm gonna season it to taste. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna because I like my shit salty. My blood pressure is still completely okay. I'm not saying I'm eating a ton of salt, I'm not, like, scarfing potato chips, but salt makes everything taste better. What is
Yeah.
it? Salt, let's see. Can I read it from here? Nope. It's,
As someone with low sodium, I can also attest that
there you
salt
go.
is amazing.
Yes. Like, we literally need salt to live. Like, that is a crucial component. This isn't a biology or chemistry podcast, though, so I'm not gonna go into it, especially because I don't really like, I know that is true, but I don't have any science to back it up at the moment. So
What,
we
that
will
we need
carry on.
salt?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's what
Like, what it does. I think it
the sodium molecule basically can, like, it'll hold on to the water molecule and, like, the blood, the platelet or whatever,
Oh,
and that's, or
okay.
maybe it's oxygen, and
Ooh,
the it but it goes into the bloodstream, and so the sodium has to drag the the water with. So that's why, like, I have a really hard time. It doesn't matter how much I drink. I
right,
still have to have the sodium in order for it to do anything, and I'll
right.
be dehydrated even though I'm, like,
Chugging
chugging
water.
water.
So,
So,
you actually were, like, super right because this little brief thing I found, because I went ahead and Googled it, because why not? Let's go ahead and have a little chemistry, biology little segment. The human body requires a small amount of sodium to conduct nerve impulses and to contract and relax muscles. So that's pretty damn important because if you can't
mhm,
conduct nerve impulses, you're not doing shit. Like, you're not getting
mhm.
out of bed. Like that could be like your heart might not pump.
Yeah,
So,
like, your nervous system is everything. You need to keep your
yes,
nervous system going.
yes.
Um,
And maintain the proper balance of water and minerals.
yeah,
So there you go. So,
um, but yeah, like, I think that's partially why my muscles always tend to be I have more issues during the summertime because
'Cause you're sweating more and you're not replenishing.
yep, I'm having a harder time even though, like, I chug liquid IV, like,
Yeah.
all fucking day, and the
Yeah.
amount of sodium that I intake, um, they don't like, a lot of times doctors won't believe like, especially new ones, they won't believe me that I have problems with low sodium because my
Right.
sodium levels come out great in my blood tests
Right.
now.
Now.
And I'm like, "Yes, but you don't understand the amount of sodium that I intook
Right.
to
To
get
get it
that
to
level."
be that like, I was literally scooping table salt into my mouth.
Yeah, I use,
Um
like, a Celtic sea salt because it's higher in sodium,
Ooh,
and
yeah.
I literally put, like, 3 tablespoons in my, protein shake
Oof.
on top of every glass of water I have is liquid
Yeah.
IV,
Yeah.
and I drink pickle juice all day long.
Ugh. Ugh. Sorry, guys, that's probably very vulgar in your ears, but
It works,
let it
though.
be known, Meg detests pickles. But speaking of
I don't
scooping
know how we
salt
can be friends.
well, here we are. Speaking of scooping salt into your mouth, um, fun story from elementary school Meg here. I literally used to take the little because you could get the little packs of salt and pepper. I would literally like put X amount of packets on a spoon during lunch and eat the entire thing and then have to chug my milk because I was like, but they all thought it was like the coolest thing. So now we know how low elementary school Meg would stoop just to get some external validation from her peers.
Yeah,
So
same. I was the one that would eat weird shit a lot.
yeah, like
Um,
bet me $1. Okay.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
Once ate a worm.
Uh, uh, ah. I
It
shouldn't
wasn't
be
so bad, actually.
I shouldn't be so much like that because I feel like there are actual cultures around the world that do eat worms and bugs and all of that stuff, but
I mean, it is actually more sustainable than any other source of
well,
protein.
because there's so many of them.
Yeah, and they're easy to breed and create more.
Right.
They're
Right.
much more sustainable than any other source,
Imma
and
need
less
that, like,
impact on the
super
environment.
prepared. I will need that super prepared and in a ground form so I can't tell what it is. Do not give me a bag of crickets to eat. I don't want a
Okay.
lollipop with a cricket in it.
At some point, I do want to start actually breeding, uh I can't do crickets, I wanna do
Okay.
grasshoppers.
Okay.
Crickets, the sound, it
Oh, yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
Um, and I have also this belief that when you hear the sound of a cricket, in your house, that it means someone you love is going to die.
Oh my
Like,
god, that's
that's always
terrible.
I don't know where it came from, like, ever for my entire life, I've been like that, where I'm just
Oh,
like, "No, someone's gonna die if I
that's
hear
a
the
hell of
cricket."
a superstition.
Yeah. Um, so crickets, I don't like that. The noise makes me anxious. Um
Okay. Well, I'm gonna bring this back because we're almost at 20 minutes. So we should get back to topic.
Yeah,
As I'm sure
probably.
everyone loves the aimless meanderings of grooming on the spectrum, but let's bring it back by talking about there are 5 different types of people with imposter syndrome or 5, like, categories. Now, you don't have to be one, you can be all of them, um, or some. So, we'll
And you
talk
might
about
be more one than the other.
exactly. It's on a spectrum.
Yeah.
Ooh. Um,
Spectrum.
spectrum. So, I'll just kind of give you a bit of a definition of what each one is, and we can go into some examples. So, first, you have the perfectionist. This type of imposter syndrome involves believing that unless you were absolutely perfect, you could have done better. You feel like an imposter because your perfectionist traits make you believe that you're not as good as you might think, as others might think you are. So, me personally,
Can
literally from, oh, go ahead.
can I just say one thing before you give your example?
Mhm.
Um, so I would like to point out, I think most of these you can find a way to
to make them
explain.
apply?
Well, I think you could find a way to make them apply, but I think you could find a way to explain most of these types
Yeah.
of imposter systems to some sort of childhood trauma. Um,
Oh, yes.
so I did wanna point out that usually the perfectionist is, someone who, like, actually, have tended to be this way, was, like, I have a lot of childhood trauma from my, egg donor did not she had, postpartum depression, like, real bad on
Mhm,
top of
mhm.
being mentally unstable to begin with. Um, so I still don't think she fully believes that I am her child. Um, and so, like, I always got this, like, "You're not good enough," because I was different
Right,
than her.
right.
And so I kind of took on that perfectionist, like, I have to do everything perfect.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of
No,
explain the trauma of it as well,
that's a
because
really good point. Um,
childhood trauma.
I can't trace
Uh-oh. Your microphone died. Did you hit the button?
I did hit the button, it is so easy to hit.
I told
It
you it was really easy to turn on and off.
ah. Oh my god, okay, I thought we lost signal, so I was like, "Damn it." That's okay.
Curtis, we need some sort of things to make it so we can't accidentally touch the
Like,
buttons.
it's so easy to just brush your finger across it, which, I
Yep.
mean, I love the ease and convenience of it, but it's too easy.
Yeah.
It won't be as much of a problem when I actually have my boom arm all set up, but for now, I am just holding it, so my fingers get in the way. But
Yep.
anyways, so perfectionism, I can't really trace it to one thing because it's like I don't remember a time without it. So literally from the youngest years that I can remember, which I mean isn't very young actually. But anyways, um and it bleeds into every aspect of my life. So not only is it like I would need to be perfect in every verbal interaction. Um I beat myself up if a groom isn't quote unquote perfect. If I don't
Hey.
drive perfectly, like, oh, I should have done better. I don't know. It's just that's a very large part. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's exhausting as well.
yes, yes.
Very exhausting.
Um,
Um, I it actually exhausts me so much that I have managed to push that one away a little bit easier than the rest of my,
nice.
my imposter syndromes because it's so exhausting.
Right,
Holy crap.
right. All of the spoons.
Yeah.
Um, so then we also have the expert. The expert feels like an imposter because they don't know everything there is to know about a particular subject or topic, or they haven't mastered every step in a process. So, because there is more for them to learn, they don't feel as if they've reached the rank of expert. For me, oh, go ahead. I
Oh,
saw
I
you
was
open
just
your
gonna
mouth.
say, I feel like, I have a problem, uh, not me specifically, but I've seen a lot of people with the problem of, when they start grooming, even though they know what they're doing, and I'm trying to figure out how to combat this. This is why I'm mentioning it. If anybody
Yeah,
has any ideas. But like you've done the grooming school or whatever, you've done your training, you know how to groom your dog,
right.
but you don't feel like you don't feel like you're good enough because you are still like a beginner
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
baby groomer.
Don't, no.
I know. I don't
Do
like it
not
either,
perpetuate that.
but if you're, like, right at the beginning of your career, like, even though you know what you're doing, it's
Yeah,
really hard to have that, like, confidence to be like, and I think that's why, peop we have a hard time, setting our prices properly.
right.
We let people
Yep,
walk all over us because we're always afraid that we don't know enough, you know?
right. to
Um,
command that. Yeah. Um, my example I thought of isn't related to grooming at this point, although I do heavily relate to that. Um, but for me, I've been learning French off and on since 8th grade. Um, very into it. I really like language and I really like French. But the thing it's like if I were dropped into France right now, I would be fine. I would and it wouldn't even be like I can say a lot more than just where's the airport and where's the bathroom. Like I could converse in multiple tenses and talk about more abstract things. That's very nice for me to say out loud. To hear me say that out loud though. Um, but I'm like, but I'm not good enough because I'm not like I can't say every word in French. I don't know every word in French. And also too, because I do lose it a little bit with the listening and the speaking. I'm way better at reading and writing. But like I can get by. People just need to talk uh plus lentement. More slowly. I won't keep doing that. That was just for effect right there. Um, anyways, if anyone wants to learn French and be Duolingo friends, do let me know. Or Spanish or Italian because those are also on the books, but I need to finish with French first. Okay. Anyways.
I will have to be one of your friends because I've been working on Spanish. The thing
Oh,
is,
yay.
I've been doing Spanish since fucking 4th grade, every single
Oh,
year,
yeah.
and I have a hard time with the I know the word and the
Yeah.
getting it out part, which I have a hard time in English, so, no difference there.
Ah, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
can read really well in Spanish and,
Okay.
like, I can communicate with someone in Spanish and, like, I can understand what someone else is saying. I have a harder time responding.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
but, like, I've been taking Spanish since freaking 4th grade, but when it comes to
Right.
a chance to actually speak to someone in Spanish, I freeze.
Like, well, I almost don't even want to ask people like if I don't even like saying it because if they happen to know it, they start speaking to me in French and I am not prepared for that.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, we. um, okay. So that was the expert. So let's move on to the natural genius. In this imposter syndrome type, you may feel like a fraud simply because you don't believe you are naturally intelligent or competent. If you don't get something right the first time around, or it takes you longer to master a skill, you feel like an imposter. And yeah,
Oh,
oh, yep, dogs. It's okay. It's not making a ton of sound. I'm sure we can still just talk.
yeah, just really obnoxious. Guys, hey, he's not home.
So the people who have the floor are
Just a
Addison
second, I
and
can't hear
Nibbler.
you.
Okay.
Are we done?
Oh, they said nope.
Are you done? Hey! Shh. Go lay down. That's enough. Go lay down. Okay.
Anyways, that was a word from Addison and Nibbler.
Yeah.
They
Um,
said
we're working on the natural genius, right?
yes, yes, a
Yeah.
natural genius.
Uh, I tend to have this a lot, and especially it's another thing that can be kind of like a trauma response as well. Is you know you uh like can be really a lot of times we're the gifted and talented kids.
Yes.
And so we're really good at something and everybody's all like we get that internal valid or external validation of like yes you're awesome, and then anything else that we try, if we're not immediately good, then we're like, well, no one's gonna give us validation for this, like, so done, we're done, like um
No, exactly.
so
And I get this with specifically drawing and photography because those are two things that I really enjoy. Um, but I'm not good at. And that's going to take time and effort, but I find it hard to stick with it because I am not perfect right off the bat, and I'm not finding like immediate success with it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's all I had to say on that one.
Okay. Let's move on to the soloist. So it's also impossible. Oh,
Or
it's
it's
not
also
impossible.
possible.
It is possible to feel like an imposter if you had to ask for help to reach a certain level or status. Since you couldn't get there on your own, you question your competence or abilities.
Whew, that one is a hard one. Like, that one is one that hits hard. Um, yeah, I've always been the type of person where it doesn't count if I didn't do all of it, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And, um, I can't, it was ingrained in me, another childhood trauma thing where, like,
Mhm.
you know, I I couldn't ask for help or,
Right.
I was a failure.
Right.
So, and I would get a negative negative reinforcement
Mhm.
to not
Mhm.
ask for help again. So I had to, try to figure out how to do things on my own. Um, and then when someone does help me, I mean, in any way, I
Right.
immediately feel like, oh well, I didn't do that then, you know.
Right. Which
Um,
we might be able to commiserate on something here. My example is getting coaching or taking a particular program involving coaching that kind of set me on the path I'm currently on. So I deal with a little bit of like, well, what if I had never taken this program or gotten this coaching? Would I have ever been able to make it to this point?
yeah,
So
but like you had to work hard to pay for that coaching, you
that's
know.
true. And I still am. I still am.
Exactly. You know, that and I mean, I still have it, but I have gotten much better about,
Mhm.
realizing, like I realized there was a difference between um like having the privilege isn't making me the bad guy, you know? Um like I feel like a bad person if I get something that other people wouldn't get, you know? So
Right.
having that privilege of, you know, I'm privileged even, just to
Excuse me.
I was privileged enough that my dad was able to sell me his old house
Right.
for very, very little, and I
Right.
was able to own an entire fucking house
An
at,
entire a
like,
whole ass house.
a whole ass it was, like it was a little house, it was a little
Hey, that's
dumpy,
a whole
but
ass house though.
it was still a whole ass house, and, like, I had that at, 23 years old, which is
Damn.
not normal, you
No, no,
know?
that's incredible.
Especially in this time of year, like,
Right, this day and age, yeah.
this day and age, time of year. And so, like, sometimes when I look back and I'm like, you know, I've come so far, like, when I first moved into that house, like, yeah, I was buying I was, like, buying the house, but I was still, like, eating ramen noodles for 3 meals a
Aw.
day.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I
But
I was
hey, you were struggle bugging, but you were in a whole ass house that you own.
yeah, and,
Yeah,
like, but, like, and I look back now and I'm like, I have a whole, like, big house
yeah,
with a
yeah,
business, and, like,
yeah.
I see what I have now and I'm like, but what if I hadn't been lucky and, like, I feel like a bad guy because,
Aw.
yeah, because, like, other people couldn't be
Right.
where I am because they didn't have the
That
privilege of
opportunity.
having, that
Yeah.
opportunity of, like, having, my father who, has good money
Right.
and can help me
Right.
out,
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's always I totally get that of you're like, "Do I really deserve it?"
Right. Well, especially when my first speaking opportunity included a name drop. So I'm like, would I have actually gotten in if I hadn't done that? Like, but you know what? It's fine. I'm going to rock it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and,
manifesting
you
that.
know, sometimes you gotta take those opportunities in order to
Get out
guys,
of your own damn way.
course you guys my dogs never like to fucking play.
Oh, and now they're like, "Let's
Yeah,
play."
let's play! Idiots.
Aw.
Um, but yeah, what were we talking about?
Oh, sometimes you just have to take those opportunities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you just
I
gotta
just
take the
needed to
opportunities when you
get out of my
can.
own way.
Yeah.
So, anyways, our last type of imposter syndrome is the super person. So, this involves believing you must be the hardest worker or reach the highest levels of achievement possible. And if you don't, you are a fraud.
Have you seen Encanto?
Are you fucking kidding me? I am
Of
fucking
course you've seen
obsessed.
Encanto,
I
why
am
did I have to ask that
obsessed
question?
with Encanto. Like, I could just about quote it word for word. Do you wanna sing? We can sing. I'm kidding. We won't do that to you guys, but I am obsessed with Encanto. I
I'm the
love.
strong one. I'm not nervous.
Yes. Oh my god. Okay. So that entire song just, like, hits me to my core.
Right? That's
Like,
my
I'm
favorite,
worthless
like,
if I'm not of service. Yeah.
when I'm, like, had a long day of grooming and I'm, like, on my way home and I'm, like, exhausted, that's my
Aw.
favorite song to play, like, turn it all the way up and just rock out to
Lisa.
it.
Yes. Yes. Oh, it's amazing. It's a great song.
I once
I
got
mean,
pulled
all
over
of
for
it.
speeding because I was concentrating more on Encanto than
Aw.
the speeding.
Oh my
But
gosh, I love it. Um, so anyways, do you have a super person example? Because that's one that I don't quite think fits me as much. I mean, kind of if I think about the fact that I never got certified with any dog grooming organization. And now that since I have a cat grooming master certification, I feel like I need to have the equivalent, but I've since given up on doing any of that. Because I won't be grooming for much longer. So I don't see the point to spend the money and the time and the effort. But
mhm.
that also makes me feel like, well, I could have done that and I would be so much better off if I did, even though I probably wouldn't. Like it, I'd be doing the same thing, doing the same pet trims. Like,
Yeah,
anyways,
no, I mean, when I was young, I this is another gonna bring childhood trauma up all the time.
I
Uh,
mean, I feel like we got the right crowd for that. That sounds
yeah.
terrible, but if you can't handle that, don't listen to us because
Yeah.
it's part of
Um,
us, so it's coming out.
yes, and, you know, part of healing is to be able to talk about these things. So, this is a safe space if you guys wanna talk about it. Um, but yeah, so when I was young, um, my I lived with my grandparents till I was 5, and then I moved in with my mom and her husband, uh, when I was about 5, and then they had my sister. And then about 9 months after my sister was born, my parents both parents just kinda suddenly, like, weren't really in existence most of the time. Like, they were doing things. I don't really know because it's
Yeah.
very blurry, but I took on I learned how to cook hamburger helper when I was 6
Oh.
years old.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah.
on this little it was like this little plug-in electric skillet. You could just make a
Aw.
little and so I kind of ended up taking on the role of taking care of my sister.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so it was I got that, like, super person like, I always ended up being I was taking care of my sister, and then I was also taking care of, you know, her dad who had his demons and was stoned most of the time, like, taking care of
Right.
him, and then,
Right.
uh, our egg donor who, like, she was supposedly at work. I don't really know. She had some really long shifts. Um,
Aw. Yeah.
but she was also young. I don't know, like, I wouldn't blame her if she was, like, out partying, though it did fuck me up, you know? So, um, Like, they just weren't around, and I was taking care of them, like, when my mom or when my egg donor was around, like, she was very, she was still very young. She was in her 20s. She was growing up, and she kind of put that on me to be her, like, parent of, like, I had to listen to her, you know
Her issues and kind of
Yeah.
role reversal.
Yeah. So, I have that super person complex a lot. Um
I was gonna say I can relate to the role reversal thing. That's probably something that we can go into more depth on a different episode because I feel like
Role
that's a very
reversal.
large. Yeah, I feel like we can have like a parents episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one's
Childhood
gonna.
trauma.
Oh my god, that'll be a mini series.
Yeah, just an entire mini series on childhood trauma.
Anyways, we have
I could
one
talk
last.
for days.
Yeah, so a series for sure. Or we just live stream for hours.
Yes.
So,
Is there like a Guinness World Record of like longest
I don't
like
know.
live video? We should look that up.
Let's look that up, and if someone beats us to it, that's great, but we haven't had a single commercial break, and we're at past 40 minutes,
Oh,
so
we should probably do a commercial break then.
we're almost there. We have one last little snippet to get through.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay. So we've talked about our 5 types of imposter syndrome, and now there's something, I don't wanna say cool because it's not cool, but it was just, like, not fun to learn about. Fascinating? I don't know. But so have you heard of an imposter syndrome cycle?
I have.
Did you hear about it before yesterday?
No.
Okay. So, this cycle essentially starts when there's a task at hand. We would first deal with anxiety, procrastination, and or over preparation for said task. Then we do that task and, maybe we're successful with it and we complete it. And then we experience a brief respite. I should have looked that up. I'm pretty sure it's respite. We get a break from all of that stress caused by the anxiety or over preparation, procrastination, all of that. This could last literally mere seconds or much longer. It really depends on the person and the situation. Um, but then that good feeling, that like dopamine of actually getting it done, starts to go away, and we start to rationalize our feelings, and we may start picking apart our performance, and start being real persnickety about what we could have done better, or saying we just got lucky. We actually like we couldn't actually have done that. It just must have been like, I don't
A
know, the
fluke.
full moon or the Mercury in retrograde, or it was something else. It wasn't us. There's no way it was from us. But then this can devolve further and further until we're in a depression and or anxiety black hole.
That's my
Thoughts?
word. uh I mean, yeah, it's I have gotten better with making it less of a dramatic cycle.
Yep. Yep.
So, I don't go into the full anxiety black hole of and like depression for like a month afterwards like I used to.
Right. Well, good.
um but yeah, it's you know, you can kind of see where it goes with the different types.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um I would also like to point out that um oh, I lost it. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
Lost
That's
that
okay.
thought.
If it comes back, let us know.
Yes.
But I mean, at that point, I mean, we could go ahead and
Do our
he-
commercial.
yeah. And now for a message from one of our sponsors. Typing the time. And we're back.
We're back.
Woo! And now we're going to talk about how do we as neurodivergent humans experience imposter syndrome? And we have this really fun rabbit hole that Stephanie is going to take us down.
We're
So
gonna do a new
I'm ready.
segment.
What?
Our new segment.
Oh, yes.
Stephanie's rabbit hole.
Stephanie's rabbit hole.
Do, do, do,
Because
do,
last
do.
time, if you remember the last episode, she went down a rabbit hole about hunters and gatherers, in relation to neurodivergency. So now we have our new segment, Stephanie's Rabbit Hole, Dungeons and Dragons. And
Do,
go.
do, do, do,
Doo, 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 doo.
do. Okay, so I was on Google Scholar again because that's what I do.
Of
Uh,
course.
and I found this really great research paper, and it was I love he actually made it to look like and we'll have to make sure we put a link up somewhere. But he made it to actually be like set up kind of like the player's handbook for Dungeons and Dragons. And basically what he was doing is um trying to explain how playing D&D can help neurodivergent people uh learn how to communicate better in a neurotypical world, basically. Um, and he basically put in place like a lot of these different rules. He did like a whole campaign with these players to see kind of did like interviews at different, after each time they get together to kind of like see how everybody's feeling. Um, it was so cool. Basically, so he basically started out by um they did like a before they play kind of thing where they were doing like a creative, like seeing what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um and I thought this was kind of cool because this is kind of how it worked out with me and my group of friends, even though we didn't actually do this on purpose. It's just how we are. But basically, they sat down and they went through, and he gave some cool tools that he used for it. One is lines and veils, which lines are basically topics that should never come up, and veils or should be topics that are taken off screen. So, such as things such was explaining to you, like something like sex. There is interpersonal relationships a lot of times within D&D campaigns, and having these boundaries on like, you know, are we even going to have that part in our campaign? Cuz what if somebody else doesn't enjoy, doesn't want to sit there and listen to you flirt for 20 minutes. Um,
For anyone who's not watching this on YouTube, I am viciously pointing at myself. Like, it's me. I don't want to hear anything about it.
yeah. Um, and like, then there's some people like, or if you can handle it kind of like an off-screen thing, like a lot of times, me in my thing, me and my husband are married. Well, we're not married in the game. We are together in the game, and we are super goofballs, and we'll just be like, we're gonna head up to our room, wink wink, and then like that is all we say about it. So it's like an implied like they went off to fool around because they're together, but like it didn't have to be a thing. So
Right.
and so it's kind of bringing it into these boundaries and rules. That's what you're doing in this like pre-campaign get together. You're planning out, where everyone's boundaries are so that everyone's in a safe space, basically. Like
Right.
they know, and for autistic people especially, having rules is so important.
Yes.
Like we need to know the rules. I need to know the rules and parameters of what I'm doing. Um and like the whole thing is you make this a safe space so that you can practice communication.
Right. So you're
um
establishing all the boundaries ahead of time. So
yeah,
there's
and they
no
also
awkwardness of trying to, yeah.
yeah, we'll have to post some of the links that I put on here, but there was a couple of different like safety tools that I
Mhm,
found.
mhm.
You can also Google safe D&D safety tools, and there's a lot
A
of
whole
different
bunch of
things
stuff
out
will come
there
up. Yeah.
to try to make your D&D campaign a safe space. And then the next thing they talk about is kind of uh like um the next kind of thing he talks about is like even in conversation we kind of have some more rules and boundaries because we can, and what I like about D&D and what's made it useful for me
Right.
is I have a hard time thinking of something to say in the moment. I have that hard time like getting it from my brain out my mouth.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't come out right if I try to do it too quickly. But in D&D, like we do our little like outside of game huddle where we're like, okay, what are
Yeah.
we gonna do in this situation? We like
Right.
talk it out.
Right.
And then we go into it and we like are prepared and I know what I need to say. Like I know the rules and
Exactly.
parameters, you know,
Yes.
like so I just found this very cool the way he did it. Y'all have to do a lot more looking into it because it is
Yeah, y'all get to it.
it is really cool. But I just love the idea of using D&D as that tool to learn how to communicate because I know it's helped me.
Yeah.
um,
Look, ma, no hands. I got it.
oh,
I have it
you
like
got it to sit.
balanced on the edge of my desk right now.
Nice.
So I finally don't have to hold it because I realized very quickly this is not what I want to do. Anyways, the struggles of not getting my shit together.
um, but yeah, anyways, so imposter syndrome is a really cool thing. And I actually, because um, I loved it, Dungeons and Dragons, and I knew that it helped me. And this was before I even read this. I actually put together a seminar, and it's more like a game where I have um I run it like Dungeons and Dragons. You get to
Puppies and
pick,
humans.
huh?
Is it puppies and humans?
Puppies and humans. Yep. And you basically, I'm going to do it in Oregon. But basically, and it depends on the group, but we will like split it up into groups of people. And I'll be like, okay, we're going to have, here's your list of stats. Like I do a very basic stat sheet of what would normally be on regular Dungeons and Dragons. But this one is a very simplified version. And the stats are basically um, to make a difference in, so when you're making a decision, you roll the dice, and depending on how that dice roll is depends on what you're going to decide. But um then you have the added what your personality is like.
Yeah.
So someone may have like a high charisma or uh low strength, and like that will that the point system that you have there
Yeah.
is what tells
Yeah.
you what your actual score like what your actual dice roll means, and how
Right.
that point of the story is going to play out basically.
Right.
So what I did is I have like these basic stats, and you can decide your own, or I have like ones that I can hand out, and basically you would play it. You're It's literally dealing with a customer. And we're playing, and I'll be like, I go through one customer at a time, and you know, I play the customer then, and then they react to me, and it works really well for them to be able to um practice, but it also helps them to kind of think on their feet and help them enjoy it a little bit more because you add in that dice roll. So what they just said might have come out a lot differently
Right.
in my head.
Right.
So it kind of helps with teaching them to think on their feet as well and feel confident in doing so.
Right.
Because it's a game,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
also helping. So, if
I
anybody
love it.
ever wants to, hire me to teach that at their, host me at their shop, I would love that. Saying.
Yeah. And she has literally like a 5-page PDF of available classes she can give. So it can be an all day thing.
Yep.
So,
So yeah.
Are you through with, Stephanie's rabbit hole?
Yep.
Have we clambered back out?
Yeah,
Okay.
mostly.
Okay, okay. Uh, so just one more little snippet, and then we're going to break. So which I realize now that the 3rd section has almost nothing in it, but that's okay. You know, we don't have to have perfectly even segments.
Yeah.
Um So, with this internalized self doubt of imposter syndrome enveloping every part of us, it's hard to see us being successful with things, which can turn into a self fulfilling prophecy. We might not try as hard because we don't possibly believe that we can succeed, and therefore we either fail or we don't even try. This will further cement to our inner voice that we cannot succeed, and that will just continue to perpetuate itself.
Yes.
So,
And, uh, I what does Mary always say?
oh my God, Mary says so many things.
The related thing.
The related
Um,
thing to the self yeah, I'm at a loss. You're gonna say it, and I'm gonna immediately know, but
yeah. I don't remember what she says. It's,
damn it. Mary,
like,
do you
"It's
know what you
better to
said?
do something than nothing at all,"
Oh, okay, well, that's
something
also,
like that.
like that isn't
I
she
think of
didn't come
Mary
up
a
with
lot.
it. She didn't come up with it, but it's basically like, "Don't let perfection be the enemy of good or done."
Yeah.
So it's better to have something than nothing at all, along those lines, maybe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I just know she says it a lot,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
right. I mean,
Yes.
so
So, and now a message from one of our sponsors.
do 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 do.
I gotta type
Can you
6.
just use that little snippet of do 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 do
I mean,
do
I
for, like,
can.
random things?
See, I haven't yet learned no, I could do it. I could splice it and then save that as Stephanie boop de doop doop dooping.
Do 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 do.
Anyways. Anyways. And we're back.
We sure are.
So in the beginning, I mentioned self-criticism as well, which really I feel like these are pretty tied in to each other.
Mhm.
Um, but self-criticism, well, okay, so we're going to talk really just about the negative connotation of it, but self-criticism can be positive as well. I just wanted to make that note that you can criticize yourself positively as well. But what we will be talking about and what is most often being talked about when talking about self-criticism is the tendency to engage in negative self-evaluation that results in feelings of worthlessness, failure, and guilt when expectations are not met. Originally, this was seen as particularly relevant to the development of depression, which we did kind of talk about, where how like you get into the imposter syndrome cycle, and that can let you kind of spiral out into depression or anxiety. So, two theorists, Richard Thompson and David C. Zuroff, identified two primary types of self criticism. Um, and again, only in 2004. So we're still dealing with some pretty recent topics. Like there weren't words, there weren't diagnoses, there wasn't like, and that just means it's kind of sad to think about, but that just means that people just dealt with this and had no idea why they felt like shit. That's sad.
I wonder if that's why there were so many serial killers in the 70s and 80s.
Oh God. I mean, yeah. Um, Oh my god. Anyways, so they also devised the levels of self-criticism scale that measures the two forms of these negative self-evaluations. So would you like to tell us about one of these types of self-criticism?
Yeah.
Cool. You do one, I do one.
I just I keep, like, going to smoke, and every time, like, I
I'm
do,
like, "Hey, talk."
that's when you're like, "Hey, talk," and I'm like, "Ah!" Uh, What am I on? Okay. Comparative self-criticism.
Yes.
Criticism.
Do
Uh,
tell.
People often engage in this type of negative self-perception when they compare themselves with others. They tend to view others as superior or hostile and base their self-esteem on perceptions of how other individuals view them. Um,
Yes.
so when you see all the Instagram models looking hot on the Instagrams, and then you
Ah,
look at yourself in the mirror and you're
we're like, "I can never be that." But then
but
also
also it
to
can
know
be
that it's
really, really
also
serious
fake.
and not just about that, but
Well, yes, but it's a good example. It's a good
yeah.
example. Um, I have a really hard time not comparing myself to every other woman I see.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
"Oh, she's so much prettier than me," or, "Oh, I wish I was tall like her," or, like, it's very tough.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Um, I've always because I don't fully identify as, like, a woman,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I struggle with this a lot because, you know, like, I'm not like, because 'cause I'm gender fluid, like, I
Right.
don't
Right.
sometimes I feel a little more feminine, but, like, for the most part, I don't feel very feminine, and when I do feel feminine and I try to look feminine, then I, like, look in the mirror, it's a whole thing.
Maybe
Um,
that's why I feel so, because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, if only I could be more feminine or look more feminine like them. They look so feminine," but I have to then remember I too am gender fluid. So
yeah. Well, and then, like, I don't know, it's just hard because you're especially because we grew up and were raised women too. Like,
right.
there was always that pressure, and,
Yes.
when I was young, I had the pressure of it wasn't as pressuresome as, like, it is now,
Right.
um,
Right.
because when I was young, it was just like, "Oh, she's just a tomboy," you
Yeah.
know? And,
Yes.
like, I was one of the guys, and I didn't mind that. Like, uh, I didn't mind being, like, the tomboy or, like, fitting in with one of the
Right.
guys, yeah, as one
Right.
of the guys, like, I didn't mind that at all, I liked it. Like, I don't identify as a man, but I felt more comfortable
Yeah.
in that setting,
Yes.
you know? Um, but now it's I was even worried about, like, messaging that person from high school because,
Aw.
like,
Yeah.
it's a man, and I'm like, "I don't have any interest in him in that way, like, I
Right.
just want to be
Right.
friends." Like,
Right.
I like making friends.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
was really worried that, like, people
It
would
would
take that, like
come off as like
yeah,
an
even,
overture.
like, with
Like,
you, who I know I didn't need to explain that, but I had to start with, "First of all, this is just a friend thing," like
yes. Yes.
'cause, like, it's weird, like, it's so out of place for someone like me who presents fairly feminine
Right.
to hang out, especially since I am married to a man, like, it's weird
Right.
for other people to see me hanging out with, like, anyone else that's male presenting.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because the
and
first
I'm just
thought
like, "But
is
I
usually
feel
like
more comfortable there," you know?
well, because people will immediately jump to, "Oh, if a guy and a girl are hanging out, like, they're obviously having sex or, like, they're sexually interested in each other." But, like, no, no. Try again.
Yeah, um yeah, so I think that's where I've mostly seen it, is, like, I don't fit
Yeah.
in with the typical, like, what I was raised as, but,
Right.
like, um, I don't even have someone to compare myself to then.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, "Well, I shouldn't compare myself to these other really feminine women because that's not me." But
Right.
then I'm like, "Well,
Right.
who do I" like, my brain's like, "I need to compare it to someone."
Oh, I know, because we are so prone to making comparisons and finding patterns where there are actually none and all of that. But, So, the second type of self criticism is internalized self criticism, which is a
Yes.
type of negative self assessment where you establish impossible standards for yourself. For
Okay.
example, you succeed at delivering your project on time, or even if you do succeed delivering it on time, you constantly feel that it's not up to the mark. So, in other words, you view success like failure and don't give yourself enough credit.
Hmm. It's like it was like written for you, Meg.
I'm literally like, you know how many times people have told me in like the last week, you don't give yourself enough credit? It's 2 people, but that's still a lot. Like, it's you and Rachel.
I was gonna
Um,
say, was one of them me? Because
yes,
I
yes,
definitely was thinking it at some point. I
yes,
don't
no.
tell you every time I think about it because it
It'd
would be a
probably be
lot.
all the time, I know.
Yeah.
It would get
Which
a
is
little
not
redundant.
helpful. Like, I would like to put I do real like, I like to try to find that in between point because
Yeah,
there's, like, a level of, like, I need someone to hold me accountable, but,
right,
like, don't constantly bug me, you know?
right. And then I, of course, like, I err on the side of not bugging enough because I don't wanna pester, but,
Yeah.
we have gotten better, though, over time, so
Yeah. We
I
just
think our
learn to
communication is
communicate.
very good. But, yeah, so as you can see, self-criticism is very tied into imposter syndrome. I would not use the terms interchangeably, uh, but they are very, very one and the same. Like, they're not okay, no, Meg, they're not one and the same. That's what you just said. Um, but I'm trying to think of how to say it. Like, they're very related. If you got one, you got the other. Kinda like if you have imposter
Comorbid?
syndrome. Yep, it's a comorbidity of imposter syndrome. God, that sounds terrible. Anyways, and now a message from one of our sponsors.
Sponsors.
I gotta say, actually, the second commercial break from, the first episode, I said it that way, and it has since stuck in my head, and now I hate it.
I like it.
It's funny, but I literally did that because we had just come off of laughing really hard or something, and I was like, "And now a word from one of our sponsors."
I love it.
Okay. Oh, I didn't type the time, but that's okay. We're close enough.
And we're back.
Hold on, hold on, hold on. I gotta
I know, I
put like
just wanted to say, "And we're back."
oh, okay. I'll put it for like oh 06. That'll be close enough. Okay. And we're back. So we have spent a long fucking time talking about what imposter syndrome is and the different intricacies of such. So let's talk about how we can overcome imposter syndrome or at least make it more manageable. So we have found 7 key factors that can help. So we can alternate if you wish, or I can read, then you can react, however you would like to do it, friend.
Can you read?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I don't mind. I actually prefer listening to you react versus me react. So sorry,
Okay.
guys. This is all stuff we should have established before, but here we are. So
We forgot to
learn the
set our
facts.
boundaries.
Yeah, So, our first thing to help imposter syndrome is learn the facts. So, as with all negative emotions, one of the best ways to manage imposter feelings is to address the cognitive distortions contributing to them. Jessica Vanderlyn, a PhD and also a clinical instructor of psychiatry at the Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis, and a psychologist at Siteman Cancer Center. So she knows her shit, guys. She
Yeah.
leads small groups of medical residents in discussions about imposter phenomenon. The hospital launched these seminars because imposter feelings among new physicians are common and often lead to burnout. A common suggestion she shares with psychology and medical residents is to take a step back to look at the bigger picture. What facts support that you deserve to be in your role? In the process, monitor your internal dialogue. So that would be basically like I have done X, X, and X. So I am allowed to be in this role.
Mm.
She also recommends a simple exercise of asking yourself how you might support a friend who minimizes their accomplishments, and then applying the same supportive language to your own narration.
So just
We're getting a satisfied nod.
satisfied nods. So everyone, just anytime that you're feeling this way, listen to Snoop Dogg's affirmations thing.
Okay. But yeah, it's dealing a lot with just, like, getting out of your head and kind of looking objectively at what's going on, which can be really
Yeah.
difficult. So that's
I
why
would I would also like to say that this is kind of, in a way, it's a type of grounding.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
like, you have to kinda just sometimes you have to kind of pull yourself in and just, like, you have to center yourself. Like, that's the big thing. You wanna center yourself and you wanna find your center,
right,
which sounds crazy to some
right,
people, but it's literally like I literally will sit there and I literally just will imagine my spine and the feeling of it being straight up and down in the middle of my body.
right,
And like
right,
then my body like slowly starts to kind of align with it.
yeah,
And I take those deep breaths to kind of relax my muscles and
right,
uh that will really like that grounding of like I'm just gonna sit in this feeling for now, like, and it's okay.
right,
But, you
right,
know, um, but also realize that, then you can kind of start to think of like your uh what is the word? When like a kid or an animal is doing something you don't want them to do and
yeah,
you
redirect,
distract them, you
redirect,
redirect.
yes,
Redirect is the word, thank you. Um, so you're, like, gonna redirect your thought process. So you've centered yourself, and then you're gonna take those thoughts and kind of redirect them into that more positive, feeling, and, like, I'm a very, like it helps me to visualize it kind of thing.
right,
So for
right,
me, I literally visualize, like, this energy of, like, finding my center and it like, and then I literally feel this energy, like I literally visualize the energy as I'm
yeah,
like throwing it or whatever I'm doing with it. So that's why I say it this way. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, just kind of like redirecting that energy into the more positive, like these
yeah,
are the things that you did. So
right.
it's
So,
very hard to do though, because you have to be aware that it's happening.
that's true. Awareness is, like, the first step of most things, like, just being able to recognize.
Yep.
So, that was an excellent summation. So let's move on to sharing your feelings. So, if you don't trust your own facts, Vanderlyn recommends enlisting other people. Sharing your imposter feelings with others can not only reduce loneliness, but also open doors for others to share what they see in you. Be strategic about who you share with, though, because imposter struggles with peers can promote comparison and actually increase imposter phenomenon. But venting to trusted individuals outside your professional circle can provide a more helpful picture of your accomplishments and value. However, I don't feel like that applies to us.
Mhm.
Um, so, for people with underrepresented identities, it can be helpful to connect in empowering spaces and communities, which can provide support and, more importantly, validation and empathy for navigating imposter phenomenon in oppressive systems. If your imposter feelings rise to the level where they negatively impact your functioning, it's suggested to work through these thoughts in therapy. So, a couple different levels of things there.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think in a way it kinda does, relate to us because we do have this safe place. We created this safe space
Yeah.
of the meditate.
I mean, that's a safe space too, but
Yes,
this
it's a
one
safe space as
specifically
well,
was
but we
grooming on
together
the spectrum.
created the grooming on the spectrum one, and it
Yes.
is, like, the safe space that we can talk about it and we can work through it.
Yes.
Um, but also, you know, talking to a therapist obviously would be the great choice. But I would like to add that, like, I know a lot of people do not have access to that. um, and so a lot of times that kind of can come down to, um, when you're feeling these feelings of being an imposter and really looking at why do you feel that,
Yeah.
um, that's really what it comes down to is you're gonna like you basically like there's the there's the outer thing that is actually happening, and it has
Yeah.
to like you have to go through the whole map to find out what actually it was.
Right.
You need to
Right.
find the root cause,
The root
basically.
cause. I love that. Yes.
um, that's helped me a lot in when I realize that I'm doing something that's odd.
Yeah.
And now like John has been really good about, my husband, he's really good about telling me, "Hey, that's kind of an odd thing." Like it's fine, like we'll talk about it. But then I will kind of just continue to think about it in the back of my head and kind of break down to where like why do I do that thing, you
Right.
know?
Right.
um so really why are you feeling that feeling is going to take a lot of time to get down to the root cause, but that's what your therapist is going to start working on. um so that's if you
Yeah.
can't afford a therapist,
Yeah.
that's the direction to start looking, I
Right.
guess.
Right.
I am not a therapist, and I'm not going to to
Mm.
ever claim to be one, but
Right.
I will tell you from my experience that is kind of the direction that a therapist goes. So,
I love your disclaimers there. So,
yeah.
our next factor is celebrate your successes. So, people who struggle with imposter feelings tend to brush off their successes, which only exacerbates the experience because we just write them
Mhm.
off as, oh, no, that's nothing. If someone congratulates you, don't move on too fast. Pay attention to how you respond and aim to speak more positively about yourself. Taking time to applaud yourself, whether you gain a new credential or publish a paper or just have a good client session, can help you internalize your success. More relevant examples would be you nailed your freaking like certification for short legged terriers or something. Own it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe you just landed a house with 5 chihuahuas, which for some people would probably be hell, but for me, that's heaven. Um, I want all the cheese, all the wawas. So you could simply reflect on your efforts, but external concrete reminders are also important. For example, if you receive an email with positive feedback, save it or print it. Vanderlyn says she keeps a few emails from reviewers and past supervisors near her desk so she can look at them and remember how others see her. The accomplishments don't have to feel significant either. It can be little things that, taken together, show you to be an incredibly competent, high functioning professional. And that's why I have a folder called Happy Mag where I save screenshots of people being nice to me. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, that works. Um, what was I gonna say?
I don't know.
Uh, yeah, just, making sure that you celebrate those successes, like, and find a way that works for you, obviously. But like things that I do a lot of times is I'll like, me and John, we always have some bottles of champagne on us, like in the house. We don't drink a ton of champagne, but every once in a while, like we do when something good happens and it's
Yeah.
not like huge, but like we just want to celebrate it, we will have some champagne
Yeah.
and just like, congratulations to us.
Whoop, whoop.
So like that's a good way, good thing to do. I know I wanted to say actually Abby at Calling All Pause,
Yeah.
she did something similar to this. I don't remember what she called it. It was something board. But anytime like anybody got a good review, she
Aw.
would put it on this bulletin board so everyone could see it. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and like I was training there at the time, so it was actually funny. The one person was like, "Oh, you're not on none of your reviews are on the board." And I'm like, "Yeah, but
Oh.
I've trained that one, that one, that one, that one." Like,
Aw, so it's
I'm
like by
like, "I'm just like,
association?
I" I'm like,
Yeah.
"I've been here so long that it's always the same client, so they're not gonna constantly give me reviews."
Well, and
But I now I get to see my students getting good reviews.
that means literally everybody you train through the Meditative Groomer Academy, their successes are by
Yeah.
proxy yours.
Yep.
So,
Like
just gonna say that.
seeing someone that I've taught succeed
Yes.
is so, like, worth everything that I do, like,
Yeah.
every shitty thing that I do. Like, in case anybody is wondering, I fucking hate putting together slideshows. I've been working on this one for, like, 3 weeks, and it sucks.
Aw.
Uh,
Yeah.
anyways, I lost track of what I was saying.
That's okay. If you
Uh,
want, I can move on or we can try to look for it.
yeah, I lost it. Anyways, point is just
Ah.
make sure you're celebrating your successes in your
Yeah.
way, even if they're little successes. Um, just celebrate them, even if it's just you. And if you need someone
Exactly.
else to celebrate with you, send me a message.
There you go.
We'll do a video call.
Yeah. I'm really good at hyping up other people. I am terrible at doing it for myself.
Yes.
Um, anyways, uh, the next factor is I don't even wanna read it. Let go of perfectionism. They say it like it's so damn easy.
The
Thank you.
first
That took
step
a
is
lot.
saying it.
So, you don't have to lower the bar, but adjusting your standards, which is lowering the bar,
It is
for
not
success.
lowering the bar if the bar was too high to be sustainable.
That's true. If the bar was literally on the ceiling and my goal is to make it between the bar and the ceiling, like, that's literally impossible. Um, but anyways, so you don't have to lower the bar, but adjusting your standards for success can make it easier to see and internalize your accomplishments. Vanderlyn suggests focusing on your progress rather than aiming for perfection. She says in clinical work, there may not be a perfect way through a patient scenario, but we have to be okay with being good enough. And when you don't meet your standards, resist the urge to see your failure as an exposure. Instead, reframe failures as opportunities to learn and grow, which will ultimately move you toward the success you're seeking. It may help to release yourself from rigid roles. People with imposter phenomenon often see themselves as helpers, people who come to the rescue. Breaking free from those roles so you can be someone who doesn't know it all or someone who can't always help can allow us to be more robust people and professionals.
Uh, I think this kind of also can, if you want to talk about compassion fatigue, it would be involved in this as
Ooh,
well.
yes.
Compassion fatigue is literally like you can't let go of that perfectionism. You need to do, you know, what's best, you're doing what's best for, the dog, um, and you just wanna save it, like,
Yeah.
that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but constantly feeling like you constantly need to help someone is draining. It's
Yes.
draining on you, on your brain, and it's draining on your body. It drains your adrenals. You're constantly in fight or
Yes.
flight,
And we talked about that in the last
because then
episode,
you're in
how having that
fight or flight for someone else.
right. And that's dumping the cortisol into your body. And we talked about how a little bit of stress like is healthy, but having that constant fight, flight, freeze, fawn
Yep.
um, is actually going to like open you up, like reduce your immune system. Like it's going to open you up to other problems.
Yeah. Because
Um,
the adrenal glands, they start to burn out,
yep.
because when you overwork things, they burn out,
Yes.
and your adrenals are responsible for so many things.
So many.
And I mean, it's going to affect your immune system. It's going to affect uh your digestive system, your
Yep.
respiratory system, like
Yep.
everything is going to
All of the
start to
systems.
struggle. And the endocrine system, your endocrine system will also um it affects all your hormones, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
So, like
We're
and
a very finely tuned machine. So if something starts going wrong, it's going to affect other things.
yes. So,
So to avoid this, we can cultivate self-compassion. Self-compassion is using mindfulness to shift from an external locus of self-worth to an internal one. It can also help you let go of perfectionism. Try to observe when your imposter feelings surface and how do you respond to them. Whereas imposter syndrome or phenomenon is unconscious and mindless, mindfulness can help you move in a different direction. It's about learning to recognize those feelings of fear and learning to truly be okay as you are without your accomplishments. We are not the sum of our accomplishments. We are us. We are just us. And we
mhm.
might have accomplishments, but we are not worth the sum of our accomplishments.
Yes. Agreed.
Yes. Do you have
um,
anything for that or do you want me to move on?
yeah, just move on.
Okay. You can also share your failures. Hearing what other people think of you isn't the only way to grow out of imposter phenomenon. Discussing failures in a group can help paint a more realistic portrait of what other people are struggling with. For example, you can look at your resume and see all the papers. Well, it says CV, but I don't actually recall right at the moment what that means. So I replaced it with resume and hopefully it's right. And see all the papers you've
It's
published.
basically the same thing, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. But you're also aware of all your papers that were rejected. But when you see a colleague has published a paper, you don't know what happened behind the scenes. So seeing your worst and someone else's best can spark comparison, which can aggravate feelings. These things happen to every single person, even if they're at the top of their field. So sharing the learning moments and those failures can be a really good organizational cultural practice. And I just want to bring up that you
This
talking
just
about
gave me an
Instagram.
idea.
Oh, what idea?
Well, I think one of our weekly posts should be, uh, tell us one of your failures from this week and what you learned from
Ooh.
it.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm going to have to think of a day, like a word that will alliterate with one of the days of the week because we have
Yes.
Fun Facts Friday and Tell Us About You Tuesday. Um, I'll think about that. I'll think about that. And you'll see it in our Facebook group called Grooming on the Spectrum.
Yes.
Yes.
And you were
Um,
gonna say.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, just harkening back to bringing up Instagram or Facebook, like any social media. Granted, nowadays I see a lot of people who talk about all their negatives as well on there. It's become quite a bit of a rant place.
Yep.
Um, but Instagram specifically, I feel like is less ranty and more like you're only seeing like the best pictures with the right filter at the right angles and like all of that. So like you're not seeing all of their failures, all of their whatever, all of their negatives because you're only seeing what they serve up to you on that silver platter of a phone screen.
Yeah.
So, don't
No.
believe that that's all that there is.
Um, yeah, and I know I'm really guilty of that. Like, I tend to be more open on my Facebook. Um, I think I'm most open on TikTok, actually. Uh, but I tend to be pretty, like, quiet on my Instagram. I don't post a lot of, like I don't post a lot of the stuff that I do on other places. Instagram is, like, all, like, pretty pictures and,
Yeah.
like,
Yes.
cool things going on in my house or plants, like, pretty things.
Right.
And, um but even, like, I'm a lot more open on TikTok, but, like, I don't share everything on TikTok, and I catch myself censoring myself all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, and, like, that's something that I have been trying to stop doing, actually, is censoring myself.
Good.
Um, but it's difficult.
It is because we're still, kind of possessed by, oh, how are others going to take this? Let me dull myself down.
Yep.
So we have one other one last factor, which again, easier said than done, but it says to just accept it. So as you learn to work through imposter phenomenon, it'll probably interfere less with your well-being because
Yep.
you're learning coping and managing skills there. But taming imposter feelings doesn't mean they'll never show up again. It's common for them to arise at any career shift, like from school to internship, internship to postdoc, postdoc to career, and so on. This may be exacerbated when a person's social reference changes. For example, if you were the valedictorian in your high school, but then go to a prestigious university with dozens of other valedictorians, all of a sudden that really awesome success feels like nothing.
Mhm.
You may not feel like you're at the top anymore because you're now with all of the tops.
Mhm.
Tops. Okay. We're also going to be faced with new experiences or roles, and that's when this will really come out. So it's good to recognize, even if you're making progress, you might be in a position next year where these things come up again.
Yeah. I think imposter syndrome tends to play a pretty heavy role also in people in with addictions.
Yeah,
Um like every time they make that step forward, they still feel like they're not doing enough because
yeah,
they were addicts at some, they were
right,
addicted,
right,
Um and um like that is, even if you take this kind of advice of, trying to work through it, like it can literally be like, somebody is on at their very lowest, they're
yeah,
homeless, they're addicted to drugs,
right,
and like the next day, like they make it through the night. And like
yeah,
that can be your accomplishment. Like you literally made
exactly.
it through the night. Like
Yeah,
that's all
you
you
woke
needed
up
to
the
do.
next morning. You're
So
good.
like
That's a success.
sometimes my wins are literally just I brushed my fucking teeth, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, if anybody wants, I can post I got a new toothbrush because I the sensory issues of toothbrushing. So it's a kid's toothbrush and it has 3 sides to it. And so it's nice and soft, so it doesn't like make my
Ooh.
gums hurt, and it gets all sides of it in like way less time.
Okay, I am someone who is interested.
Yes.
Um, I don't necessarily so my issue with brushing my teeth is actually I got very anti-mint. I can still chew
Yes.
mint gum, but now it's all too goddamn spicy. So I have, watermelon toothpaste and strawberry rush mouthwash because that's the only way I'm gonna use it regularly because it tastes like candy.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. No,
Yeah.
I don't have too much problem with toothpaste. It's always been that like
The actual, stimulation of the gums and everything.
yeah, like my gums will literally hurt afterwards. Even if I'm doing this on like a regular basis, like I know obviously if you
Do
haven't
you have
brushed in
early
a
stage
while and
gum disease? Because I do.
no actually.
Okay, okay.
It I still have a hard time with tartar, but I was getting I was going into the dentist every 6 months. So, which
See,
now I
I
need
need
to
to f
find a new dentist. I
I was
went to
gonna
him for the
say,
last time, he's retiring.
oh, that's the one thing that our insurance doesn't cover. We have health, we have vision. Why the fuck eyeballs and tooth bones don't count as health
Yeah.
will always escape me. But we need to figure out if we want to buy a separate dental insurance privately or just self-pay at an office, and it'll probably be a self-pay at an office kind of deal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But anyways, whenever you have no more thoughts on the matter, we can stop.
Oh, so yeah, so what I was saying
Yes,
basically
yes.
is I got derailed, by myself. Um,
Happens.
but basically what I was saying is, like, when you're celebrating wins, it doesn't have to be like, "I started a business, so I'm celebrating
Right.
this win." It can literally be, "I got out of bed.
Yep.
I, you know, brushed my teeth." Like, if you're having a rough time, anything that you do like, doing something is better than nothing. So
Yes.
celebrate that something that you did and try not to think about the stuff that you didn't, because all you're going to end up in is that black hole of anxiety and guilt.
Right.
And no
So,
one wants that.
speaking of small wins, um,
Did you
have
brush your
you
teeth today?
yes, but it's because of
Yay!
this. Have you heard it's not gonna work for me. That's okay. I'll just say it. Have you heard of the Finch app?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's super fucking adorable. You get this little penguin as a baby, and you get to set your own goals. So for example, mine are like get out of bed is a goal, brush my teeth, wash my face, take a deep breath and appreciate the sensation, take a picture of something that makes me smile, do an exercise that I like for 3 minutes, like little things like that. And basically, each task gives your little baby penguin a certain amount of energy. So when you wake up in the morning and you do these goals and you mark them off, and then all of a sudden your penguin is full of energy and it says something cute like my penguin is called Goldfish. Um, so it'll say Goldfish munched on cherries and is now feeling stronger. And then you can send Goldfish on an adventure and you get like different clothing items and house items or whatever. And then in 6 hours, the penguin comes back. And then you like that's how you just build a relationship with your little penguin. I love it. It's super customizable. You can make it any goals you want. You can have there are even a lot of goals uh like what's one event that strongly impacted who you are today, what's lifting your mood. There's soundscapes, so just listening to soundscapes. There's different quizzes, like anxiety quizzes you can take that give you energy. There's all kinds of stuff. It's very much a mental health app. Um,
Yeah.
but it incentivizes me because there's you get gifts every single day, and if you skip a day, you never get that gift. So it incentivizes me because I want to open it and get the sweater or like the lamp or whatever
Yeah.
the hell it is because there's like themes every month. So right now it's like the sweetheart theme because it's Valentine's Day.
Aw.
So I love it. Um, I don't remember if there's a free and a oh, I do pay for the paid version, but it's cheap. But that's just because now I get 2 gifts every day instead of 1 because I'm very
Ooh.
easily incentivized for these literal virtual coding on my phone. But that's okay. It makes me happy, so I go with it. But anyways, Goldfish is in Paris right now. So,
Nice.
yeah, she's waving at me right now. She said hello.
Hello.
Anyways, do we have anything else for this?
I don't think so.
All
Um,
right.
I think the main point here should be you should learn
Yes.
to we should all learn to journal.
Yes.
If anybody figures out how to get me to start journaling, that'd be great. I used to do it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Uh, then, I think the egg donor started going through my room and reading
Oh,
my diary,
no. Okay, so then
and
it was no longer safe. Yeah.
yeah, um, but yeah, like, now I just can't like, I can't get myself to like, actually do it.
I know
So,
it would be so helpful even if it was just a gratitude journal like Mary suggests.
I know, but I tried. I literally just, like,
Would you be
the
able to do it like vlogging style, like just making voice memos?
maybe.
Yeah.
It's like my executive functioning just, like,
Yeah.
totally shuts off.
Like, nope, we aren't doing that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Maybe I should ask my therapist about that. I should ask my therapist about that tomorrow.
There you go. You should.
I'm gonna put it on a Post-it note.
Hey, it's a little better than an envelope.
Yep. There are so many
Anyways.
Post-it notes sitting on my desk right now
Oh my god.
because that's the only way I can get myself to write things down.
Yeah.
Otherwise I forget things, but
Yeah.
it's too much to write it anywhere else, and so I put it
Right.
on Post-it notes for some reason.
Right.
But then I have to actually put it from my Post-it notes into somewhere in, like, a calendar, and I don't
Yep.
do it, and then I
Yep.
just end up with a pile of fucking Post-it notes.
With no rhyme
Um,
or reason.
talk to
Well, as Stephanie
about
makes her Post-it note, it's time for
jour
us to say goodbye.
goodbye.